Good afternoon and welcome to all in RRI land or Race and Reconciliation land. We are pleased to have you all join us as we're looking to continue in the fourth part of our five-part series as we go around campus asking the question, what does reconciliation mean to me? Before we go any further, we would like to respectfully acknowledge all Native American peoples who have lived on this land since time immemorial. TCU especially acknowledges and pays respect to the Wichita and affiliated tribes upon whose historical homeland our university is located. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Frederick Gooding Jr., aka Dr. G, and I would like to welcome you to our virtual town hall as sponsored by TCU's Race and Reconciliation Initiative, otherwise known as RRI. The goal of RRI is to fulfill the Chancellor and Board of Trustees' charge of studying slavery, racism, and the Confederacy, or at least TCU's relationship with slavery, racism, and the Confederacy. Now, our first year primarily focused upon African Americans, but the second year, we're expanding our window horizontally to do a deeper dive into the first window or the founding years, roughly up until 1841 to 1871, roughly that period. And the idea is for us to simply expand the amount of identities and histories of our TCU community that we simply need to incorporate moving forward. Again, by way of clarification, the RRI is an academically based, historically focused initiative designed to investigate and document TCU's history. Therefore, any questions or ideas that are outside of our scope, we'll simply redirect them to the appropriate parties. Again, this is the fourth part of an exciting five-part series. Today, we're going to hear from members of the Bob Schieffer College of Communication and also the College of Science and Engineering. And be sure to join us for our fifth installment on the 23rd of March when we hear from SIS and Harris. We are fortunate that you could join us today with this discussion, as we hope it will provide critical perspective and deepen understanding that we hope will ultimately push us forward and toward action and healing, or in other words, reconciliation. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I would like to simply give way for what is going to be the best part of my day, and that is introducing our host. I will come back later in the program to share some very important announcements that you simply do not want to miss. So, but don't hold your breath, but do hold on to your hats. In the meantime, allow for me to introduce a face and a name that I believe is by no means unfamiliar to many of you out in RRI land, and that would be none other than our graduate research assistant wonderkind, the marvelous, the mellifluous, the magnificent Mr. Marcellus Perkins.
Dr. G, thank you for that introduction. And thank you to all those that have joined us today. We are aware that you could have been anywhere on campus, anywhere in the world, anywhere on Zoom, but you've decided to spend your lunchtime with us. And for that, we appreciate you. At this moment, I would like to introduce our deans. The Dean of the College of Science and Engineering, Dean Michael Kruger. Dean Kruger.
Thank you, Marcellus.
Absolutely.
So I was asked to prepare some introductory remarks, and this preparation has been an educational experience for me. While I knew of the college's DEI committee's efforts, for example, this spring we'll host several CSE community events. We've participated in TCU's First Gen celebrations, and we host a yearly STEM and cultural symposium. While I was aware of all of these and more, I was unaware of just how far the college has come in integrating DEI into courses, clubs, and other extracurricular activities. For example, we have a new course that, among other topics, studies instances when unethical research has been conducted. In the appropriate courses, we review social disparities in things such as exposure to toxins or access to healthcare. And we have a minor, cultural awareness in healthcare, which is an exploration of the impact of society on health-related topics. These are just a few areas, and there are many, many more. So I am pleased to say that the College of Science and Engineering has been mindful about DEI, and we continue to build upon our successes. And I want to thank the two members of CSE who will be presenting later today. Thank you, Marcellus.
Thank you, Dean Kruger. From the Bob Schieffer College of Communications, Dean Christy Bunton. Dean Button.
Hi, and I want to add my thanks to everyone who's organized this session and who will be participating today. I want to note that, of course, we are proud of our college DEI committee, which has conducted a variety of events and programs. And I want to point out one thing that I'm very excited about, and that is that working with our DEI committee, a group of students in strategic communication in the fall semester took on as their semester project an inventory of the DEI climate for students in our college. And so we are excited to receive their report. One other thing that I want to point out as we think about reconciliation is the relationship between telling stories and evaluating communication messages and the work of reconciliation, which is, I think, something that our college is uniquely positioned to do, to examine in news coverage and advertising and entertainment and other kinds of organizational communication messages. Who's been valued? What are the stories that have been told? And the work that you'll be hearing about, for example, from Charity Robinson today is one of those efforts at telling more and better stories about the multiplicity of people. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you to our deans for joining us today. At this moment, I would like to introduce to you our panelists for this afternoon. Ms. Charity Robinson, an instructor in the Department of Film, Television, and Digital Media. Ms. Melissa Hernandez is an undergraduate student in the Schieffer College. Ms. Jessica Standerfield is the pre-health coordinator and a college diversity advocate in the College of Science and Engineering. Hello. Ms. Angel Fripe is an undergraduate student majoring in mechanical engineering in the College of Science and Engineering. Panelists, how are you? So we'll start off with a very surface level question, and then we'll progress forward throughout this afternoon. So for the first question, and this is up for anyone that wants to grab it, what does reconciliation mean to you? And how does reconciliation inform either your professional or academic work? Whoever wants to grab it first.
I'll
Absolutely.
go
Go
ahead
ahead.
and jump in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. Those I can't see, welcome. I was actually pretty impressed on how, so I just want to give congratulations to you guys for putting this together, especially because you want to hear from us as individuals, not just all the weight of the college on us. So on behalf of myself and my role, I think I am one of the only people of color in my department. So I started here in 2018. And I think race and reconciliation really to me is my part and what part I play in representing underrepresented people. So I think that's been like my biggest push. And then actually in all my professional positions, I think this is the one place that I can actually facilitate that in all of my roles that I've ever had, especially because it's for the students, and I love education and I love continuing education. So it also empowers me as well.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Hello. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties with getting on earlier, but
No worries.
thank you so much for having us. When I think about reconciliation, I love alliteration, and reconciliation to me is recognition and just reflection on the complexity of different shared experiences that, myself personally, I'm not going to have the same shared experiences or same human experience that someone of color would have or someone of a different socioeconomic status would have. It's recognizing and acknowledging privilege. It's a commitment to being dedicated to using your gifts and your talents and your abilities to create, particularly In our college, that's something that we really encourage students to do, to use their voice, to use their talents, to use their abilities to amplify the voices of the voiceless. And so, you know, for me, I'm a storyteller, a documentarian, and I approach my work through that lens of reconciliation, just inviting others in and amplifying stories that may not necessarily have the opportunity to be heard. And more importantly, engaging students in that work as well. I'm so happy we have students on the panel today to get to talk about their experiences, because so often they have so much to teach us, more so than we can to teach them in terms of reconciliation. And so that's kind of how reconciliation informs the work that we do, at least in the FTDM department, and in my classes in documentary production, in working with the community on stories of reconciliation.
Thank you.
And I think for myself, coming from a student point of view, reconciliation for me is really just expanding my knowledge, because a lot of the times, coming as a person of color myself, I can start to generalize things that I've gone through for all people of color, and that's not the case. A lot of the time, different people of color go through different experiences in their lives. So it's really just educating myself, not feeling like I'm too good. I live this lifestyle already. I can educate myself. So I see peers who, you might look like me, but you haven't been through the same things as me. So just being a better peer to my fellow students, and being able to also educate other students who don't have shared experiences as us other students of color, just being able to be a peer, be a friend, but also educate people at the same time without feeling like I'm being overbearing or overstepping any boundaries in our relationships in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I also agree with that. A huge thing for me is definitely just educating myself on anything that happened in the past, any past events, and just moving forward with that, connecting with my peers. We're storytellers, so just figuring out how we can get those messages out, and just, again, just educating myself and my peers around me.
Absolutely. So with our next question, I'm going to start with the students first. And because you answered last, and you're still on my screen, Ms. Hernandez, I'm going to pitch this one to you first. How do you view your college relationship to the largest campus community?
Yes. Okay. So the Bob Schieffer College of Communication, I feel that we have a great connection with media, obviously, which is one of the upcoming things now with technology. So it's very important. We have a lot of connections through Instagram and social media, and just we build that relationship with the entire community on campus. And it's very cool to have that power to spread messages.
Absolutely. Ms. Fright, I wanted to also hear from you from the student's perspective. How do you view your college relationship to the largest campus community?
I think since I've started here, it's grown. I think as freshman year, I can remember limited things that expanded outside of the college itself. And since I've been here in senior year and I've seen a lot more, I know of more initiatives that we have around campus that span to more than just engineering students or just students in the college. So I'm hopeful that it continues, and I'm grateful to see that in the years I've been here, I can say that I think it is getting better.
Absolutely. And just for context, for our students that are panelists, can you also say what year you are?
Yeah, I'm a senior.
You're senior. Okay, nice.
I'm a senior as well.
Senior. Okay, 2 seniors. All right. For this next question, I'm going to turn it over to our higher education professionals. What areas of your college are you looking to improve your efforts? Whichever.
I'll jump in.
Okay, yeah.
I think definitely more representation of people of color in our college. I think that's, I don't know the statistics on it, but like I feel that we're kind of the people that have less people of color in our entire college. So I think that's definitely something as far as recruitment and having more representation, but also just building awareness. I think often, over time, science and engineering and math, all those kinds of STEM related departments don't really know their connection to DEI or, I think that also ways to build how that is still connected to diversity, equity, inclusion, and how they can incorporate that in classrooms. I think I will definitely ditto with everything Angel said. Since I've been here since 2018, I definitely seen an improvement, but we still got, ways to go. So I think that's also included as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely diversity in the makeup of our students in our college. Also, retaining and recruiting diverse faculty is really important. Dean Button had mentioned that Dr. Macias in our college had incorporated into her campaigns class for our strategic communication students to kind of examine our DEI committee as a client and to see where's the disconnect in what our DEI committee says we're doing and how we're supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion in our college, and where is that disconnect in what students are seeing. And as a member of that committee and hearing students come into our meetings and speak to us about their perspectives, that was really helpful for us to see that maybe how we view their experience and how we are promoting DEI efforts in the college may not be matching up to what they're actually seeing. Melissa and I were talking before this, and I had asked her if I could share this story, but there was a guest speaker that came into our documentary production class, and she was a woman of color. She was a part of the LGBTQ community. She represented, a diverse perspective that maybe students had not seen before. And I remember Melissa telling me after that, that was the first time that I saw myself as a woman of color represented in a guest speaker in our classes. And I thought, we have to do better than that. And so I think just making sure that we're connecting with students on what their experience is in terms of DEI and our efforts, and hearing from them so that we can make sure that we're matching and meeting their expectations and hopefully at some point exceeding those expectations, although that work is really hard and is still to be done.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of piggyback off that and turn it back, starting first with our higher education professionals that are present. Are there any DEI efforts that you all can share that your colleges are undertaking right now?
I'll go ahead and just kind of pick up on that. Dr. Macias' students did a fantastic job of putting together multiple reports for us in regards to how we're branding, how we are portraying our college on social media, how we're reaching out to obtain and recruit students of color and faculty of color. And so as the DEI committee, we're working to look at what was presented in that research last semester. We're also participating as faculty members in some book clubs and discussions of different books that help to maybe broaden our perspectives in terms of DEI. So not just, color, but also socioeconomic status, students that are coming in as single parents, students that are coming in that are older than the traditional student population. How are we best including those students and talking about what we've read and how we can incorporate that into our pedagogical practices. And then just work in the community. We, in terms of work that we've done in my classroom in particular, students are working with organizations that are working towards reconciliation in Fort Worth. So Community Frontline and their work in the Stop 6 area, with race and police relations, or the NET, who works with survivors of sex trafficking and prostitution. Currently, our students in documentary production are working with an organization called Project Beloved that works to support survivors of sexual assault and rape, and engaging students in a way that not just invites them to participate in the work, but actually makes them partners in the work and gives them an opportunity to enter into the suffering that we're seeing in Fort Worth and in our community. And, much is said about the bubble at TCU and how we can get outside of our bubble and our comfort zone, but not in sort of a fly-by-night approach of a one-day volunteer session with an organization, but entering in with that organization. And doing that through service learning is something that is exciting, I think, for our students in the department. Melissa served as a director on one of our documentaries and just did an amazing job of telling a story of reconciliation. And so it's about creating partnerships with students, and not just participation with students, I think.
Yeah, I think definitely there's a lot of different things that actually came up once we got presented with this initiative, and which was really helpful to hear from all the different departments. So we got a lot of feedback, which is really good to hear that we're doing a lot of great things in the college. So I just kind of summarized most of them. But the biggest one is building inclusive classrooms. Specifically to how you formalize groups, as far as how, don't, just announce, okay, four people in a group, pick your own, just kind of being more strategic and making sure people aren't isolated and things like that, and building like where it's more diverse and people are meeting each other. TA training, that was one of the things that came up during like listening sessions that we hosted back in 2020, right when students got back virtually, specifically that it felt like TAs were being favored, there's favoritism, I guess. So building like a more intentional effort to train TAs to think about those types of things, so the perception is not that. Email check-ins with students, and actually if there's an event or something that they know a student's interested in, actually emailing that student and saying, hey, I thought this would be interesting for you to take a part of. So that's kind of encompassing really building inclusive classrooms. Specific projects that are done for like group projects and things like that are catered towards outreach and cultural awareness, that types of things. Hosting discussions that kind of stem around these areas. Specifically in pre-health, we've built a peer mentor program that has been super helpful to especially incoming students to really get the connection to campus, and as well as, what does it look like just being a pre-health student? That's been really helpful. We also have a president's roundtable within pre-health, which is all the pre-health student organizations. We actually have a president's roundtable liaison who's a student leadership position, and they actually host monthly meetings to check in with all the presidents and see how they can collaborate and work together and support each other, especially when it comes to membership, recruitment, and things like that, funds and stuff such as that. We actually have pre-health DEI advocates, which also was something new we added this beginning of spring 2021, which has been super helpful for me, especially being in pre-health, really hearing from the students, and kind of piggyback off of what Charity was saying. I think really hearing the students' voice. I stem most of my initiatives and things that I work on based off of what students kind of express, and the peer mentor programs, the DEI advocates, President's Roundtable, all of our student leadership has been really helpful in just expressing the needs and things that they see that's happening that we may not see as faculty and staff. So that's, and then also just some kind back to, the college as a whole. There was definitely some talks on building, making sure awareness of historical scientists that are people of color and the lack of it. I think that's the biggest thing that, because there's not as many. So, but actually making that known to students so that they can get them to think about those types of things. And then overall, just building personal relationships. I think that's like the biggest way to make our students have a sense of belonging, that they belong here. And we're working on hosting, we're calling it Commune Unity, and where we actually, as a college, select specific students to just informally just have a way to meet faculty in a way that's not, you know, office and, you know, an event that they kind of have to go to, but it's more where we do activities together and really get to know each other. I think that's going to be helpful. So we're starting that this semester. So we're really looking forward to seeing how impactful those go as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Very thorough answers. We appreciate that. I want to turn it back over to the student panelists now. In your mind, what is your vision that would make your college more equitable?
One thing that I always lead with is just more professors that would have more representation. In the 4 years I've been here, I think I've had, well, I'd say 2 professors of color, not necessarily professors that look like me, but professors of color nonetheless. And one thing that I always talk about is that, you know, I'm the only African-American female in my graduating class right now. And I think the retention between African-American students in, I can only speak for engineering itself, but in engineering could be better. And I think one way that that could help is for students to see professors like them and see, oh, this is attainable. Because initially, engineering is hard. I mean, not initially, the whole time, engineering is hard. But it's kind of better when you have more students who look like you around. You know, goals become a little more attainable. You have professors that you feel more comfortable going to. I mean, not saying that you have to have a professor that looks like you to be comfortable, but it helps. And not having any really makes it a little harder. It makes you think, well, is this where I belong? Because I don't see anybody like me here. So I always think that that could help with retention of, you know, students of color in the department. It's something I harp on every time I get the chance. So I think that would be great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, going off of that, same for at least the FTDM department. The one person of color that I did have as an authority figure was my advising counselor, and she's now gone. So my senior year, I don't really have anyone of color that I can look up to. But another thing that I would really appreciate would just be those connections, like guest speakers or just posting opportunities for just career building or internships and things like that. For film, there was a recent study done in 2021 that the top 1,000 movies of like the past decade, only 1% of them were directed by Latinas. So there's just a huge underrepresentation of people of color and women of color in that type of industry. So it's really important to get resources for those students that don't have any connections, because there's not really much out there.
Absolutely. So for the final question in this segment, I want to turn it over to all the panelists. This is a question, and this is a word that we constantly hear when we're trying to do this work, is the P word of performative. So how do you all kind of grapple with this word of being seen as performative, or your work being seen as performative, while knowing in your heart of hearts that what you're doing is truthful, it is impactful, and is very intentional? How do you all kind of grapple with that?
One way that I try to make sure that work that I do, especially when it comes to diversity, isn't seen as performative, is to make sure that it can go on after I'm here. So one thing that I did in my time here was I founded a student organization, the National Society of Black Engineers. One thing that I'm trying to ensure before I graduate is that next year they'll have enough students in the organization to keep it going. Because to me, performative is like, well, this is here while I'm here, and when it's gone, I don't care. But I really, truly care that that organization is here, because like Melissa said, that is a way for students of color to have connections to professionals in the area. It's a way for you to know other classmates or other peers in the college that are also in engineering and also minorities. It's an avenue, it's a space that wasn't necessarily here, wasn't intentionally here until it was made. So one way that I think that cannot be seen as performative is just to make sure you're making long-term changes as best as you can.
Profound. Anyone else?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, storytelling, like the documentary that I was doing with Professor Robinson, everything just comes from the heart, I guess. Just finding that community, and I really love talking to other people and just building connections off of other people. So interviewing Black Theater TCU was so rewarding. We gathered local Black music groups to perform in the documentary, and we used their music with their with them. And then just we also interviewed Botham's sister, which really, it still gives me chills to this day, because it was such an honor and such a privilege. And again, I guess that I'm an emotional person almost, that everything I do just really comes from the heart, and I just want to share those stories with people. And that's my thing, my will, what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Thank you for sharing. Can I get one of our higher education professionals to chime in on this one, and then we're going to move on to the next question?
Yeah, I'll kind of picking up off of what Melissa said. I mean, as a creative in the arts, I think it's human nature to really desire approval for your work, and you want it to be seen. Obviously, we show it at festivals, we premiere it, we want eyeballs on it, we want people to see it. But I think particularly in when we're doing work that is focused on reconciliation, that desire of your heart for it to actually change people's attitudes, their hearts, their minds, by amplifying stories that may not otherwise be heard. The fear of being performative kind of just falls into the background. And, honestly, I'll be honest, every time I premiered some sort of work I've done, I do have that fear of, are people going to like it? But the fear of, are people going to think that I'm doing this for the wrong reason, almost takes a backseat to, if this will change somebody's heart, and if this will change somebody's attitude, and if this will change someone's perspective, if they think I'm performative in the way that I'm, putting that out there, hopefully they won't. They will understand by hearing somebody else's story and perspective that the goal was not a performance. The goal was to change hearts and to change minds and to change attitudes. And so I think that as an artist, it's hard not to be performative in your work, but as an artist that's working towards reconciliation, that we worry less about it being performative and more about it changing attitudes and actually implementing a desire for people to reconcile, as opposed to being worried about it being performative.
Thank you so much. So for this segment, we'll focus on a little bit of your aspects or your perspective of RI. Ms. Tanner, I'll start with you first with this question, and I'll preface by saying this: your honest response is welcome. So however the first thought comes in, trust me, it's cool. We've heard all of it. What did you first think of RI when you heard of it, and how did you hear of it?
Um, I first heard of it when I got an email from my dean.
Okay, okay, all right.
And what was the second question?
How did you hear of it, or what was your first thoughts of it when you heard of it?
My first thoughts were, my first instinct was to reach back out to my dean and challenge him a little bit, which he took it on very well. And because at first he was just asking if I would represent the college, and of course I said yes. But I also went back to him and discussed if I could get the college to be a part of this with me. Just to, well, at first I thought you guys mostly wanted to hear exactly what we were doing, and then got more information. But I think that has helped me see, because I live in my pre-health world, and as we all do, we live in our little area and then we stay there. But even though we're in a college as a whole, but it was really nice, and Angel and I both talked about this last week, of just to hear, what actually is going on. And to get a different perspective. And I don't know anything about engineering, but of course Angel does, but I don't know about what's going on in psychology and those types of areas. So it was very cool to hear the different types of ways that this is supported. So the feedback we got from all the different departments was really impactful. So it definitely, if it did anything, it definitely brought some awareness and challenged people a little bit, because they had it due and they had to submit something to me, and had some accountability. So that was really nice to get in touch with the college in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why we asked that question, particularly after asking you all, how do you grapple with being performative, is because it is a word that we are familiar with in regards to RI, and especially when we were trying to get things off the ground. Anytime, an institution provides a new initiative, the first question is this real or is this performative? And a lot of times, you do have to grapple with the work that you're doing is it really impactful? Is it sustainable? And a lot of things that you all said today is also a mere reflection of our feelings, our true feelings as well. And that's why we wanted to sit in that space of transparency, of asking our panelists, what were your thoughts of this initiative as well? Because your name was mentioned in the last response, Ms. Fripe, I want to ask you, what encourages you on campus with respects to DEI efforts, and what gives you pause, particularly as that senior student leader? I'm sure that you have a perspective of encouragement, but also concern, if any.
What encourages me is, like I was saying before, the opportunity for other African American students to come in behind me and not feel so marginalized. That is really the goal, is for it to feel less and less like you're such a minority on campus. But what gives me pause is, it's certain, you go around day to day on campus and you see certain things, or you hear certain things, and you really think like, who is this really reaching? Because if these initiatives are only reaching minorities who already have these feelings, we're just sharing experiences, then it does no good.
Yeah.
And when you, like I said, when you're a student on campus and you pass somebody and you hear a conversation, it's like, why would you say that loud? Certain things like that. It just makes me sit down and realize, or think, like, how many people are these initiatives reaching, and who are these initiatives reaching? Because is it reaching the right people? That's usually what I think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Robinson, I wanted to ask you, do you at all struggle with carrying out some of the work you do due to limited resources? I know you listed a lot of different initiatives and work objectives that your college is undertaking. So do you all struggle with that in regards to lack of resources, carrying it out?
Yeah, that's a great question, because in terms of the work we do in documentary, we adopt a nonprofit in the community every semester that I teach this class. And we work with that community organization to create a documentary short film that's going to help them to reach more people in the community, to share about what their cause is, to help them eventually to allocate more resources, to raise money, to raise awareness, so that they can continue doing their work. On the tangible side, we are incredibly fortunate in our department and in our college to be supported very well in terms of we've got state-of-the-art equipment that we can create this work on. We have amazing facilities here at TCU, and in terms of the tangible, we have wonderful resources. I think maybe the resource that we don't necessarily consider in terms of service learning sometimes is the emotional impact. It's the impact on your time. If we're honest, a lot of times when we work on service learning in the classroom, it takes a significant amount of time as opposed to if we did maybe a traditional pedagogical practices in the classroom. It also takes a huge emotional toll. Melissa was talking a bit about Botham Jean's sister, and if you're unfamiliar with that name, we worked with Theater TCU and an instructor in the department named Yvonne Penn, who did an amazing work called For Beau. It was a play inspired by the murder of Botham Jean by Amber Geiger. And just the weight of that story and the weight of sharing in that story with Botham Jean's sister and with students who were impacted by that story by an instructor who dedicated so much of her life to telling that story. The weight of us coming in as a documentary group and telling the behind the scenes story of that in a way that would allow the audience to really connect to the issues and to be inspired to maybe change their attitudes or their heart or their mind towards the topic that we were presenting. It took emotional investment from every single one of the students in the classroom, but it also takes emotional and time investment for the faculty. I see students that work insanely hard on these projects because they care so deeply about the issue. And maybe coming into the class the first day, they didn't know how much they were going to care, but by sharing in the relationship with whichever organization we're working with, whichever story we're telling in that particular semester, you find students that are so emotionally invested, just like you saw Melissa. And so I think absolutely the resources tangibly are 100% there. But we don't often look at the emotional toll that these types of projects take, the extra time that students spend on these types of projects. And in a perfect world, we'd have a year with students where we could tell these stories even more in depth than we can in a semester. But I see students that are committed to these projects well after even they leave the classroom or even they graduate. So the tangible is there, the emotional and the time. I think that's where the resources may not be as robust as I would like.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Ms. Hernandez, I wanted to ask you, from a student's perspective, how connected do you feel to the TCU culture and community? I know you're a senior, so you've been here. You have some notches under your belt. You got some weight on the game. So how connected do you feel to TCU? And do you truly feel that TCU is an inclusive campus that it strives to be?
So I feel connected to the campus, but because I went out to connect myself to the campus. I joined the marching band. I'm a resident assistant for first year communities. I've done projects with film, entered film student organizations. And I found that with those people in those groups, I do feel very connected to them. And for example, with RAs, we get a lot of training on DEI and just very difficult conversations to have with younger students. And so those are the people that do know, and that do understand and do take the time to educate themselves. So I want to encourage more students to feel that way, to want to be that way, so that like everyone can feel more connected with that, because it just depends on like the type of student you are. I'm very fortunate that I'm kind of a shy person, but that I did go out there and find those resources. Obviously, that's not the same experience everyone has, and I do have friends that left TCU because they were unable to find those connections. So that's essentially like another reason why I became an RA, just to start those students early to find their place here, because I truly believe that we can make TCU a more diverse place, and it just kind of starts with us.
Yeah, absolutely. For someone who says they're shy, you've been killing this panel. So I just, kudos.
I try.
So yeah, I want to thank you all. We're going to transition briefly to one of my favorite parts of the panel, which is rapid fire. I ask you all a little bit more of a lighthearted questions. So this directly to the media people first. If TCU were a song, what song would it be? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
I'm going to take a cue from my 10-year-old daughter who
Okay.
watches High School Musical on repeat, and I'm going to say it's We're All in This Together. That's
Oh,
gonna
nice.
that's
Okay.
gonna be mine.
Okay. Okay.
Mine will be from Friends, I'll Be There For You. That's a song everyone knows, super catchy.
Okay. My other two panelists, do you want to put something on a shuffle playlist for us? No. Okay. All right. So I'll start with you two for this. This is our last and final one. And a lot of people always get a kick out of this one. If you were chancellor for the day, what is the first thing you're changing?
Oh, I'm so glad. I would go straight to the registrar's office.
Okay.
And ask them to put my major on my diploma.
Oh, okay.
Because that bothers me. It's not on there. She's going to say Bachelor of Science. Like I worked hard for Bachelor's of Science in Engineering. And I won't get that. So that's what I would change.
Got it.
That's a hard one. I had a really hard time coming up with something for that. But I think it's the biggest. I wish we all connected a little bit more. I feel like I was saying, like I live my little pre-health world. I try to get out from my desk and things like that. But I think, I don't know what that would look like as a chancellor, but really bringing the departments and the different communities and all of us together a little bit more, back to, I guess, the We're All in This Together song. I think that's would be, I know we have events here and there, but I think just having more events where we all come together.
Yeah.
And then also a place that we can share all these things that we've been doing on campus. I built the peer mentor program in pre-health, and I heard about it through Neely Navigators. I don't know if you guys know that's a group on campus, but that was a student-led organization that was built by students, and it's very similar to peer mentor program. And I didn't know, I heard about it through just networking. So just seeing what everybody's doing, and it's great to have this platform and hear all the things that from Charity, all the things that you guys are doing in Schieffer College. And so I don't know, that's my answer.
Okay. Ms. Hernandez, Ms. Robinson, would you all like to close us out? If you were chancellor for the day, what gets done?
I feel like mine has been floated around before. I think someone on this town hall has actually said this before, but I would love to see daycare centers on campus as a parent, and then also seeing an increase in single parents and students, that not just the faculty, but students that could utilize those services. And if they were available, just how much richer their experience on campus would be. So I know that's been said before, but I would advocate for that as chancellor for a day too.
Absolutely. Ms. Hernandez, bring us home. Chancellor for the day.
I think I would build maybe like more common areas around, so that we can get together, and even if it's just to study and you're kind of on your own, you get to be introduced to different people and students on campus, because sometimes you can just close yourself off to like your own building, and it would just be a great opportunity to be able to meet other people.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you all for those insightful answers. I hope one day you all become chancellors to implement your projects. As we close out today, again, I just want to thank the panelists as well as the audience for being here with us today. You could be anywhere in the world, but you chose to be with us. I'm encouraged, hearing this is our first town hall of the year. And it kind of reemphasize and re-brings to me that, there's intentionality that you have to bring about in the classroom, in the college, in the campus, in the community, and is in the city that you're in. So your 5 C's, being intentional when you're on a college campus of those 5 C's. Hope is a discipline. It is something that we choose each and every day. It is not fleeting. It does not go anywhere like feelings, but it's something that we choose to do. So I appreciate the answers. I appreciate, the reflectiveness in your answers as well. At this moment, I would like to bring back our chair, Dr. G, to give us some updates on what's to come. Thank you all.
Thank you. I mean, honestly, Melissa, Angel, Charity, Jessica, you gentle ladies have absolutely kicked us off with this new year, the right way. And that's in having honest dialogue and discussion. I mean, I actually was more interested in those ideas towards the end. And again, hopefully you'll become a chancellor sooner rather than later. Hopefully our chancellor was listening to your ideas. And if anything, the fact that other people are hearing these ideas, they're now in circulation, they now exist. An idea that we can now talk about and continue to build upon them, hopefully is what's exciting. Just by way of information, if anyone hasn't been by there yet, I think the new Intercultural Center is moving in that direction in terms of creating space where you can just hang out, right? In terms of just be comfortable, right? Because I know for myself, person of color, I feel a little squeamish about putting my shoes up on the, on the couch and things of that nature, because, we've seen situations where people get over policed. Right. And so I don't feel comfortable like I'm at home. But the fact of the matter is if I'm paying tuition, yeah, you're right. It should be my home too. Right. So I appreciate that suggestion. And you're right. Childcare, don't get me started. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It's easy. It's easy. Okay, back to the program. Why don't we do some announcements for what's coming up, right? When we say focus on the road ahead. And I'm very excited. You all can mute the screens, again, we got to give thanks. But what we're really excited about is next Friday, we are still putting truth to power and putting theory to action, okay? And so we're talking about how to actually integrate race in the classroom space, right? The student experience. Well, what's the point? You got this PhD, you have all this theory, but yet, you're not actually infusing it, in the actual classroom space. So we have 3 practitioners who are going to talk about, how to go about doing this, right? And provide some tips and tricks. So you don't want to miss it next Friday at noon. Absolutely going to be worth your while. And again, we're very excited that this is part of the path of reconciliation that we're developing, right? This ongoing dialogue. Next slide, please. And again, these are all 3 rising stars, in case you haven't known. And well, Sean Atkinson was, past president of the student, faculty senate, but Brenda Quinn, phenomenal in terms of research. She's like TC Today every other week, it seems. And then obviously Kenneth Chapman, if you haven't known the brother, you'll know more about the brother real soon. Dean Daniel Pullen of the business school, stole him, and rightfully so. He's a treasure. So here's what I'm really excited to talk about, y'all. With the few minutes I have remaining, you definitely want to make time for the 21st of February to the 25th of February. There's something in RRI week for everyone. Now, why have a RRI week? Well, the answer is this. As you all heard from my panelists today, the work is ongoing. It's exhausting. There's a lot of moving parts. And so while we're hard at work in the archives, finding the information, at the same time, the question is, who's the information for? Well, it's for a community. And so these activities through RRI week are designed to create community. I firmly believe that we can only move forward together, but only after we come together first. So we have to come together to move forward together. So on Monday, what you don't want to miss is Real Talk. We're going to have a panel about Black and Brown. How can we all be down? There are tensions, unfortunately, what I call lateral violence, Black and Brown going at one another, as opposed to staying focused on, the eyes of the prize, the power dynamic that is. We're going to have an honest discussion about that. It's real. It's happening on our campus as throughout Fort Worth. It's real. That's what we need to reconcile with, the truth. And so on Tuesday, we have 2 bites at the apple, rise and grind. So if you want free coffee, awesome. You just got to go on out and meet us at Black Coffee. You know what I'm saying? Come to the neighborhood, come check it out. Black-owned business. Last year she came to our campus. This year we're going to go there. And again, if you make it out there, coffee's on us, but you got to make it out there. But look, if you're busy and I understand and you're on campus, well, we're still going to come to you. We're going to have a Black yoga instructor, show us how to stretch it out, because again, this work can be arduous and, we need to be balanced. So that's going to happen at 4 o'clock on Tuesday. But if you really want some action, earlier that day at 3 o'clock in Harrison, there's going to be a HEED award. So the Office of Diversity and Inclusion doing things, trying to institutionalize what we're talking about. And so 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in Harrison, they're going to have that ceremony. And so on Wednesday, I'll circle back to that. That's our keynote. Thursday, Hustling Hard. We're going to have 4 athletic coaches talk about what it means to how reconciliation is a team sport. We're going to have coaches from track, soccer, Mr. Perkins, I'm having a brain issue here. Soccer, track,
Women's basketball.
And what's the fourth one?
Football.
Oh, wait, football, as in Sonny Dykes, the new coach who helicoptered in, that coach?
Correct.
Oh, okay. So he's going to be there too. So you don't want to miss it out. I can't promise helicopter though. You know what I'm saying? I can't, but he's going to be there. Friday, an opportunity. We talk about creating community. Listen, walk with us. That's all we're doing. We're asking you to walk with us. It's going to be nice and easy, healthy, get the bones moving. And ideas that we're going to just hit a couple spots and talk about our shared heritage, right? Again, we all share the purple, y'all. So we're going to talk about the different shades of purple, right? Take a nice little walk. We'll end up at the Harrison where we'll have a little food and reception. But the main piece I wanted to pitch to you is, if you haven't learned the name Emmett Till, well, I think now is a good time to look it up. But more importantly, Emmett Till was, real briefly, a young man who was brutally murdered in 1955, all because he was allegedly, he offended a white woman, right? He was from Chicago, came to Mississippi, and didn't know the rules apparently. And it was alleged because there's a discrepancy over whether she recanted her story or not. Either way, if he did whistle at her or say, hey, baby, I don't think it's worth death. If he did, it's rude and wrong, but it's not worth death. And so bottom line is, her stepbrother, in the middle of the night came back to get him, took him out of his bed, and then brutally murdered him. And his mom, Mamie, said that she wanted to have an open casket so that the world could, quote, see what they did to my baby. She couldn't describe it in words. And that picture that was on Jet magazine helped galvanize the civil rights movement. Remember, this is 1 year after the Supreme Court decision, Brown v. Board. See, it's not a light switch, party people. We have a Supreme Court case, but it's not instant oatmeal. You understand what I'm saying? We still had issues the very next year, okay? But fact of the matter is, his cousin, Wheeler Parker Jr., was in the same bed with him that fateful night. And he's coming to speak on the 23rd. I don't think you want to miss it. That's who I'm talking about, Wheeler Parker Jr. The same individual was in that same bed. We're connected, people. We're connected. We're still connected. The history is with us in the present. And the question is, what type of future do we envision? Pardon people, I got to stop. I'm starting to get animated. I want to stay focused on the reconciliation here. The fact of the matter is that we're so very glad you could join us. So very glad you could join us as we make our way down the path. There's ample opportunity. Next slide. Is there one more slide, Karen? Is there one more slide? There's ample opportunity for us to get involved with this conversation. So yes, if you haven't heard it, check out the latest podcast episode with Dr. Rhonda Thomas. Again, Mr. Perkins, again, is a star, and you can see more evidence of that. Check out that episode in terms of what different universities are doing to compare and contrast to what we're doing. And finally, we do make house calls. So if you're interested in your classroom setting or your group organization, staff meeting, what have you, just give us a call. We'll come through. We have no problem talking about this. We do this. We're not new to this. We're true to this. Right? We live and breathe this. This is real. What's more important than the Eagles making the playoffs? What's more important? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay. But at any rate, let's stay focused. So the bottom line is this, y'all. When it comes to reconciliation, I need to sign off. I cannot promise what will happen as a result of our efforts, but I pledge to you that we're doing the best we can with what we have. Thank you.